We know now the city attorney has its hands on the police investigation records, meaning it will look at the case to consider charges against that woman. And the man who took the video and posted it online is telling his story for the first time.
If he was my child, I would want somebody else.
All right, so that was a statement. Part of that, we was having some technical difficulties trying to get it together, but I think we got it pretty much right. For folks who didn't look, you go online and check it out. Point we're trying to make today was that it was a woman, as we heard, and she made this statement. And what we're talking about is how people are funding hate and how hate it seemed to be the biggest thing here. We out of all of that, it was two GoFundMe accounts, and it's a shame that that's how it had to do. The gentleman who actually made the video about the woman making that situation, it was that, and then you have the situation of the woman herself who said, "Hey, I gotta leave town. I can't stay here no more. They're gonna run me out of here," and she raises almost $1 million to do that. So we're just talking a little bit about that. And if you want to be part of that conversation, you can be a part of that conversation by calling in at 216-271-0959. That's 216-271-0959 to be a part of that conversation. And if you're online, just leave us a comment. Any comments and everything you can online, we're going to put those comments up and be a part of that conversation. When we get back after the break here, we're going to have Dr. Burton, and we're going to come in and talk about our topic of today and what we came here today to talk about, and that is Black women in leadership, breaking barriers and facing backlash. That's what we're going to talk about. And we got Dr. Burton and we got Kennedy in the house. We're going to talk a little bit about that when we get right back.
Knowledge, our conversations are always live, and so time for the times we living in, we give you strategies.
Support for WLVU comes from the Alzheimer's Association, presenting the Mama Joe Project, film screening and community outreach. The event takes place Saturday, May.
And lo and behold, she's no longer at Case, and she's no longer doing her things over at Case anymore. So it made me wonder, like, what's going on? What's going on, doctor? So I got you on the program. Just want to get an opportunity to talk to you, find out what's going on over there at Case, man. You're not over at DEI, and Case is no longer doing DEI no more. Is that what's happening?
Well, Ken, yeah, I think the last time I was on a podcast and I was like, well, I am still employed with Case effective today.
Right.
But March 20 something, Case Western Reserve, there was a decision made that the Office for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusive Engagement would be shut down. And this came out across the media feeds and everything, with Case Western Reserve shutting down their office. And at that time, I was serving as Associate Vice President for Diversity and Inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
And so effective May 12th, those of us that were in the office, we are now laid off.
Wow.
And so I am laid off effective May 12th from that particular role. Still have other responsibilities at the institution as it relates to teaching.
Mhm.
So that's where we stand now.
So wow. It's really mind-boggling.
Yeah, and I think one of the important things to understand when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and this came up the last time on the podcast, that we were talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. You know, people have their definition, and they like to put things in this one little framework.
That's correct.
But the reality of what's happening across the board, and that can be a whole nother conversation, but is one, we've got laws, but we've got executive orders that are being put forth that have some executive powers, but they aren't in the way that we're putting them forth as laws.
Okay.
And so a lot of things are happening more so out of fear than out of actual legislation being in place. And not only with, and I'm not speaking on behalf of Case Western Reserve at all, and not that, but across the board. But the issue is the funding aspect of how the federal government is threatening entities, organizations, spaces based on funding.
That's correct.
And so what most people don't realize is how much funding has been lost for programs, grants, researches, initiatives that are focused on disparities. And so when we talk about the work that people do within our community, and they're trying to look at this inequalities and inequitable spaces that we have, a lot of that funding has been cut and it has been taken away. Groundbreaking research is losing funding based on the federal government and this whole idea. And what Trump did was he put within that executive order, he put under there, he put the Office of Budget Management. Well, if you put the Office of Budget Management in the executive order, those are the folks that control the funding. So now we can control the funding from that perspective, because as president, he can't touch that.
That's correct.
So
wow,
this is a trickle down that most people aren't realizing of how it's impacting. Because what I keep hearing people say is, well, DEI was not for us. It was for white women. White women, when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, white women advanced in terms of employment. But when we talk about some of the aspects that we have benefit from initiatives of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and again, I'm not minimizing it to an acronym, is that when we're talking about disparities, when we're looking at infant mortality rates, when we're looking at food deserts, when we're looking at all of that, and this research is happening within our community, we've lost that funding too.
So is it safe to say, and I think we're going to be going into another direction on our program today because we started out, but this is a Black woman who definitely is going through this. So we're going to have this discussion. So is it safe to say that African Americans, us as Black folks, we lost because we gave up the fight? Did we give up too much when we decided we wanted to get into DEI? Should we kept the fight on what is right for us? It seems like we put ourselves in a box that we said, okay, DEI, okay, we're in all of these things. We're going to fight for all of this, gay rights. We're going to fight for everything. And it seemed like we got sucked in. And it seemed like we got picked on. And I'm going to just say it from where I feel it. And when I say we got picked on, is that it seems like African Americans has been trying to strive to move forward in getting all the stuff that we feel is due to us. And at some point, I think we were making great strides in getting those things. And we could have made even further strides in doing those if I believe we were a little bit more. I'll use the word Dr. You and Kennedy getting her master's and you a PhD, you'll use a better word, but I would say a little more selfish about our cause. A little more saying, we really haven't got ours. So we're not going to really try to get too much involved in everything else. And I'm not saying that to say we don't and we shouldn't, but it seemed like it was all or nothing for us, and now we nothing, right? And it seemed like they took the situation of saying, because we fought for all those other things, we are the ones who got punished the most by it. The society had a problem with transgenders and other things in sports and everything. And I could sit up here and people say, oh, no, they didn't. Well, yes, they did, because that's how the man won the election. That ain't just how he won the election here. Sherrod Brown lost an election here in Ohio that way, and others across the state, because that was a serious issue. But it got thrown into the whole bucket with us and everything that we fought for. And it seemed like we lost everything by doing that. What's your thoughts on that, Doc?
Well, first I'm a back up a little bit. And I think one of the issues is we got to look at diversity, equity, and inclusion and how, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. We have lost, but I'm going before diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Okay.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I used to say this because, and I'll back up. One of the things that I said is that I never wanted to work in diversity, equity, and inclusion because I never wanted my voice minimized as a Black woman. And the work that I do for the Black community. And so I never wanted to be in diversity and inclusion. But I had a great boss at Case that has helped me to understand this both and perspective versus an either or. And so I've still been able to have the same voice. To me, diversity, equity, and inclusion, as you said, it lumped everyone in that had issues of diversity. And I don't want to talk about inclusion because, first of all, we got to get diversity before we can even get to inclusion. But it lumped us all in. But the reason I say that I go back to we messed up way before diversity, equity, and inclusion as a community. We messed up with the fight of trying to figure out whether we wanted to be integrated or other philosophical thoughts. And I've shared that before, whether we want to be in spaces of assimilation, accommodation, and integration. And the reality is when we integrate it, and not saying that every aspect of integration, and I just did an interview with someone and for my new book, shameless plug, but but in that we were having this conversation, and what he gave me was this understanding of the difference between two laws, the first Brown versus Board of Education and the second Brown versus Board of Education. And the first was about integrating in the schools, but the second was supposed to be about the action steps. And where we fell short was what the action steps look like and what we were going to do. And that's where I say we messed up, because the action steps that we needed to have in place and that we needed as a community, we've never been able to accomplish. We've never been able to do. I even go back before integration, where we go back to after slavery, and we go to the period of Reconstruction and jump right back into Jim Crow, is that this country has never been created for Black people. And we got to say that Black people to have a fair and equitable space, or to have equality. And so when we think about integration is a great concept. It's a great concept. If we truly had a fair and equitable space and full access to resources and full equality. The reality is, as Black community, we've never had that. But guess who did have it? Other aspects that fall into that diversity umbrella.
That's correct.
And so this is where, as you said, this is how we get sucked in, because we've always been all the way back here. I know some people can't see my hands, but I'm like a real hand person, and it's real hard not to talk without them. But we've always been back here. And because we've always been back here,
it was
they
never
keep
catching
moving,
up.
and we never catching up.
We're never catching up. And that's exactly my point.
And the only way we're going to catch up, the reality is, and I don't know if you've ever read the book Segregation by Design.
No.
That even talks about...
Let's be honest. And I'm being funny because people be on shows and be like, I read that book. I'm going to say, no, I ain't read that book.
Right. So And so I am an avid reader with
Okay.
certain things. But this particular book even talks about how when we look at societies and how local government even contributes to the disparities based on segregation. And it's talking about how it's designed that way so that certain communities don't get ahead. And I think this is the hard thing for us to accept as a community.
Stay on your mic.
Sorry, I got excited. I think this is the hard thing for us to accept as a community, is that we don't want to believe that society is what it is. And we walk around in this blindness of we've got this fair and access and we've got this equitability. And I'll say this, because some of us make it certain places economically that we think that, oh, well, this is a fair and equitable space. But the reality is we've got to look at the holistic picture and we got to look at everybody that's being affected. And it doesn't matter how we look at it. That's not where we are as a community in entirety.
It's a racial blindness, almost a racist blindness, because it's not economics. When you say, or you know what I mean, you at a certain level, because you have a lot of the MAGA folks who are out here who are not in that position, but they believe that they're just better. And they believe that the system is set up in a better way that's better for them. And if it's not better for everybody else, that's just the way it's supposed to be. They were always that way. That's why when I make the comment, when I say that we got sucked in, is because there's always a side of racism that's people been fighting against from day one. We just at a certain point in the last 15 years, I would say, we kind of started addressing it a little bit. That's all. We just started addressing it a little bit. People felt a little more comfortable about talking about it. People felt a little bit more comfortable about it. But when it got too real, because now people are asking questions, whether that's young Black kids or young white kids or whatever, about the history and what's really going on. The internet and technology is just a beast. And the fact that it spits out so much information, whether it's good or bad, to people that they get it now versus, to your point, if you didn't read that book, you didn't know, right? Now it's like, hey, let me send you this link, or hey, let me swipe up this thing, and you get information, whether it's good or bad. So my question, and we're going to do this question, and we're going to take a break after I ask this question to Miss Kennedy. You ain't going to sit over there and don't think we're going to put you in this conversation. Your generation is the generation that's now that generation that seems to be whoa. Break. Oh, we're back. Oh, your generation seems to be that generation that looks at this a little bit different as it relates to race, when they believe, and they make comments to even say that, you know, I don't see black and white sometimes. I just see it. We all should be the same. Is that something that what's your thoughts on that?
Personally, well, I'm Generation Z for the people out there.
The
born
last
in 2000.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. So I don't believe in that ideology. I do not identify as a person of color. I identify as African American. But I do agree with Dr. Burton that we were lumped in with everybody else when it pertains to DEI and everything. We were lumped in with feminism. We were lumped in with people with disabilities. We were lumped in with white women as well. And we were lumped in with LGBTQIA+. We were lumped in with all of them, and we're all fighting different fights. And I think that was prevalent during that time. And for me personally, I saw it during the rise of BLM, Black Lives Matter, with the protests and then the scandal that went on with that and all of the things that happened. I just think that between the generations, there's a difference in vocabulary. There's a difference in ideologies that I think we're just not on the same page with, as far as Generation X, the boomers that are still around, the millennials and Generation Z, and even Generation, I think, Alpha after me. It's just a difference in how we want to go about those things. So I think how we talked about previously, there has to be someone that we look towards for that next step. We all can't be in different places trying to fight for different things, is what I'm trying to say. But I don't believe in that. To answer your question, I do not believe in being a person of color and you don't see any color. You're lying.
We're going to take a quick break. And when we get right back, if you want to be a part of this conversation, we're talking DEI and the changes that's going on in our community and just sitting back, kicking it with Dr. Burton. And when we get right back, we're going to continue that conversation. 216-271-0959. You can also, we're streaming on WOVU.org, and you can catch us on iHeartRadio. We'll be right back.
So tap in and don't sleep. We always dropping gems, you know.
You're listening to the Strategic Moves with Ken Dow Radio Show. From knowledge to action, from action to justice. It's time to challenge, empower, and reshape the future. Dr. Heather E. Burton is here to drop the truth, ignite the conversation, and keep the movement alive.
High blood pressure or hypertension is a major risk factor for heart disease. Half of Americans have high blood pressure and many are unaware of it. About 55% of Black adults have high blood pressure, and it often develops earlier in life. Information about blood pressure and related health resources is available on the Cleveland Office of Minority Health's webpage at clevelandhealth.org. This message is funded by the Ohio Commission on Minority Health. We are celebrating 7 years here at WOVU 95.9 FM, Our Voices United. 7 years of providing a platform for community conversations. 7 years of bringing you news in and around Cleveland. 7 years of entertaining hits from the best local artists. Thank you, the listeners, for your support for 7 years. You have helped us continue and expand our mission to provide information that engages, informs, and uplifts the community. Spread the word, download our free mobile app, and stay tuned as we celebrate our 7th anniversary right here at WOVU 95.9 FM. Our Voices United, mission-driven 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're rocking with a GOAT. Ken Dow giving you motivation for growth. 2 toes down.
All right, here we go. We're back. Hey, we're going to go. Dr. Burton, you were on to something before the break, and I took a quick break before I cut you off. Go ahead. What you want to talk to Ms. Dial about over there?
Yeah, so I love what you said, Kennedy, about first of all, I love the fact that you don't identify as a person of color and you identify as African American, because I tell people I identify as a Black. Well, I say a Christian Black woman, and not Christianity in the sense of white supremacy, but Christianity as a follower of Jesus Christ. But in that, I identify as Black. And I think it's important for people to hear what you actually said when you said you don't identify as a person of color, and the aspect of what Ken had asked earlier with people saying they don't see color. Mm-hmm. And the reality is, and I tell people this all the time, I get what you're trying to say, that you see the heart, you see the inside. But the reality is you don't know my heart and you don't know my inside when I walk into a room, because you know absolutely nothing about me. But what you do know is when I walk into a room, you can see my color. Mm-hmm. I heard somebody say once that a mother may not know the sex or gender of her baby, but she gonna know that her baby is Black. She gonna know the race of her baby before the baby is born. And so in that, I just appreciate you so much with that African American identification, and with hearing a young generation Z speak truth.
So with that being the case and everything, one of the obstacles that we were talking about, that we can stay on the DEI track and go into what we were here to talk about as relates to Black women and employment. How you think with all of the disbanding and all of the things how you think that affects African Americans? I mean, I'm not going to just say women, but just African Americans in general. How big a detriment you think that's going to have on them?
So I'm looking at that from two lenses, Ken, with that particular question. And one is from that individual perspective. And I have to say, it really depends on how engaged you are and what you in understanding what's happening across the board, because there are many people that are very engaged, and they became engaged after the election because of the fear of recognizing that when we got number 47 in office, what was going to take place from many different
aspects, not just when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion, but just in general. And so those particular people, specifically within the Black community, is the reality is we've already got societal stressors on us. And so we've got to figure out ways, how do I remain healthy during this process? Not only continue with the fight and trying to improve and change things and counter what's happening, but thinking about our own health. And the reason that I say that is I just had a doctor's appointment and numbers that have never been up have gone up.
Well, I'm asking you a little stress.
Yeah. And that's the reality of it. And so, but think about those who are sitting home watching TV, watching the news. This information is feeding into you. And I say that specifically as us, for us as Black people, because we already have the external stressors that are taking us down. And then when we think about it from a community, the reality is what we're losing as it relates more so to funding aspect and programs and initiatives that have been put in place specifically for us within our community. It's taking us further back. It's taking us steps back. The other reality is that make America great again, and we can minimize what the concept of make America great again, but make America great again from the perspective of those individuals, those people, because I refuse to give them names, is to take us back to slavery, pre-Reconstruction, in a way that may not be us picking cotton, but it's going to be other aspects of being slave. And I'll give you the number of people who have lost jobs.
Right.
And how the unemployment rate is what it is now. And see, Ken, I knew I didn't want to go to DEI. I needed my stress levels to stay together today. And when I look at that, I hear all the time merit-based.
Right.
There are so many of us. Look, Kennedy, finishing a master's degree. I've got a bachelor's, 2 masters, a PhD, and a D-man. I am more qualified than half the folks within spaces that I occupy.
Right.
But yet, because I worked for an entity to improve the services of marginalized community, I no longer have a job.
Wow.
And so when we think about these sort of things, and the folks, and even thinking about folks that have been laid off from the federal government, they're more qualified than the people who've been appointed to lead these new entities within the government. But yet, this is DEI.
So what you feel as it relates to African Americans, and what we going to do? How you think we prepare? How does Kennedy listen to all that gloom and doom you just told us about? How's she supposed to go out and find a job? That's how she's going to go out there and get herself together. What you going to tell her?
I don't know. I'm unemployed.
You said I'm looking for one too.
I'm looking for a job too. I don't know what to tell you right now.
But that's where I'm saying that, because I'm trying to tell the listening audience that everything we talk about is real. I mean, we set up before Doc came on here and talked about this thing. We talked about DEI for a couple of months. Before she got the news about what happened, we talked about it for a couple of months, telling everybody what was going on. You guys are sitting at home, you're watching the news, you're seeing it. And I'm really talking to this Generation Z, and I'm talking to this millennial generation of folks out there, because we done seen tough times. I done been through it, and your parents and everyone else to some degree done been through it. But it's about to really get real out here in ways that you guys have never even imagined. And so with that, the realness, it don't get no real than Dr. Burton sitting here talking to us, because I would have never thought that when she came on. We talked about it. We figured that was going to be the thing. But listen, we talking 3 months later, we got a whole new tune. So I want everybody to know that what's going on in the administration and what's happening in our country and what's going on, it can affect everybody, even some of the people that you know. So let's don't get in this attitude, because here's the next thing, Doc, that I'm saying that because everybody on this thing now, because of everything, that this is not our fight. We shouldn't get involved. We should let it go. Let them sort it out and all of that. What's your thoughts on all that?
That's one of those things that I don't think we can ever stop fighting. when you are committed to improving, and I'm using this, when you are committed to improving the Black community, the fight can't stop.
That's correct.
Until we blow up the country and start over. Now, please don't send no terrorist attack after me that I'm trying to be a terrorist. But the reality is, until there is fair and equability and resources,
that's correct,
and racism is not what it is, we can't stop the fight. There's no way to stop the fight, because I'm looking at Kennedy and the things that I know about being a Black woman in the work environment. If you put this on top of the fact that, and Kennedy, I hate to give you this news, but the more education and the more you move up or more accolades, more accomplishments you get as a Black woman, your life expectancy decreases. Because of the stressors that we already deal with as Black women. And so in that, if we're thinking about what's happening in society, is we got to think about, how do we counter all of this? And so for me, we can't stop fighting. And I'll say this, even though I may have been laid off with an effective date of May 12th, it doesn't mean I stopped doing the work. It doesn't mean that I stopped fighting. I'm going to find other avenues. And this is a great example, is I'm still educating, still having conversations about it on this podcast, other spaces. And that's how we have to continue to fight, because the one thing that I've learned within this work, it doesn't matter whether you Black or white. I didn't realize how many people don't understand aspects of what it means for fair and equability within the Black community.
Miss Dow over there.
Yes.
That your generation and giving up the fight and wanting to fight. What's your thoughts on that? You know, we had a whole conversation about that, and when I say give up the fight, not just so much protesting or whatever, but getting involved in that whole thing. Your generation and understanding what we have to do in order to preserve the little bit of what we have left. What's your thoughts on that?
I feel similar, that we definitely should all keep fighting. However, I can, to a certain degree, understand some people who feel like they don't want to fight. But if you do feel like you don't want to fight, I feel like you should get out the way. Don't be in the way of people that are fighting, and don't speak against people who are fighting either. Like, if you have nothing positive to add, if you're not in the front line, if you're not going to put yourself out there, then don't be in the way. But that's how I feel. I feel like everyone should be fighting, whatever that looks like for you, whether you're participating in the boycotting, whether you are giving out resources, whatever it is that you're doing, your fight is your fight. But if you choose to do nothing, please stay out the way.
And I was going to say this real quick, Ken, to build on Kennedy, is that the fight can look different for everybody. And I think you just said, that's what you were alluding to, Kennedy, is that your fight may not be protesting the Tesla dealership, which I don't think, that ain't my responsibility. And that's what I think people are saying, is that there are certain levels that they are not engaging in the fight, but the fight can be advocacy within your community. The fight can be, are you still distributing some resources within your churches, within your organizations? Are you, whatever it is. But I think often we get in the mindset of the fight means that we got to be standing on top of buildings with a bullhorn yelling. And there are many other ways to advocate and continuing to push that are beyond just marching and protesting.
And I think that's where the message, I think, and what we do. And that's why I say, when I talk about the internet and things being a monster, because it controls the message. And so when the message is, don't do anything, it sends a message that you do nothing, versus, hey, we ought to pick and choose your fights, or that kind of thing. And to me, to each his own. That's what free will and free world is. You can say what you want to say, but I think us as a community has to get on a message that we all can agree upon and kind of move in that direction. I think that's why we get turned into all of this turmoil and everything is kind of going the way that it's going. Dr. Burton, you led and taught and fought in some of the most elite spaces. Why do you think so many institutes love Black women labor but fear their leadership?
Because have y'all seen that video? I don't know why I asked you, because you probably ain't seen it, just like you ain't read the book. But it's I don't know, Kitty, if you saw it. The white women talk about, we love Black women.
And we fear, I can't even say we trust Black women. It's this whole movement that white women are doing, talking about Black women and their videos that are going around. And they can't sing a lick, but they're trying to sing in support of Black women.
Really?
And
Okay.
If I could find it, I'll show it to you. But I think that's one of the things is people know that Black women, which is a hindrance also for Black women, and I talked about that with that life expectancy, but people know that Black women have the power, the wherewithal, the intelligence to move the needle and push the needle forward. The other problem is that people fear Black women, specifically if we're talking about in predominantly white spaces, because they don't understand cultural differences. And so my assertiveness does not mean something else. But they interpret everything as a fact, and I don't want to go in because we can use this whole for other shows, but they interpret it as always being angry and other aspects. But most Black women, and statistically, Black women are educated. And when you put them in the work environment, we usually can, and I use this as an example, when we at home as Black women, we can have a baby in one arm, we making spaghetti in the pot, we typing on a laptop, we got the phone, an ear pod in, and we talking on the phone. We multitask, we can do multiple things at once, and we get the job done. And so,
but don't that make y'all a little mean?
It don't make us mean. See.
I mean, don't y'all?
It doesn't make us mean. It makes us capable of doing things. But here's the thing. Why is it? See, now I'm about to throw this question at you. Why is it that we're classified as mean when we are getting things done, but when a man is doing it, he's classified as assertive, a boss, and doing power moves? Thus the show, doing power moves. Why is it that gender dynamic
we do it a little nicer?
No.
Let me ask a question.
Thanks, Kennedy.
We're going to take a break. We're going to take a quick break. And after this break, we're going to come back and continue that conversation. I done got them fired up, people. We're at the end of the show. That's how it usually go. So we'll be right back.
We go all in, handling business. For us, this is a calling.
Break it down, Doc. This is where change happens. This is Equity Exchange with Dr. Heather E. Burton on 95.9 FM WOVU. Let's go.
Attention listeners, WOVU 95.9 FM, Our Voices United, is now streaming on iHeartRadio. We are the same community radio station with the same mission, now with another way to bring you the content you need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can still find us on WOVU.org and still listen to us anywhere on the free WOVU mobile app. Those are not going away, but you can also find us on iHeart.com and on the free iHeartRadio mobile app. However you choose to listen, keep it locked for the latest content as we continue to provide a platform for you, the best audience in the land, right here on WOVU 95.9 FM, Our Voices United, a Burton Bell Carr community radio station.
Support for WOVU 95.9 FM comes from the Phoebe Foundation, offering the All Things Money Workshop, a free financial education program open to everyone. Learn about budgeting, saving, investing, debt managing, and more on May 22nd and 29th. Participants who complete the workshop can also access personal financial coaching. For more information and to register, visit phoebefoundation.org, empowering communities through financial education. Support for WOVU 95.9 comes from the TJ Carey Foundation, presenting the Heart Warrior Run and Walk on Saturday, June 28th. The event includes a 5K challenge, a 1-mile walk, and a 100-yard kids run, hosted by 9-year NFL veteran TJ Carey. The football-themed event features music, referees, and cheerleaders. Proceeds benefit programs of the TJ Carey Foundation. Details at tjcareyfoundation.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're rocking with a GOAT. Kendall giving you motivation for growth. 2 toes down. We keep it real.
All right, we are back with Dr. Burton, and we have Kennedy in the house, and we're talking a little bit about DEI, and we got into a conversation where we now started to talk a little bit about the fact that Kennedy and Dr. Burton made a comment, and I chimed in, and I just said that, you know, the women, especially black women, they get this thing of angry black women syndrome, I would call it, where everybody say black women are so angry. So I was going to ask this question, and that question is, and I've been taking a survey, and this is about, we were talking about black women and in the space. When it comes down to that space, and you're saying that, you know, you needing the opportunity and how hard you guys work in that space, who you think gives you the most problems in that space? Is it men or is it women?
It's white liberal women.
Hello.
Mm-hmm. And why you say that?
Because
and this is what's interesting why I say that is that you guys, I said that because I kind of knew the answer, because I've been asking a lot of black women that, and that's the first answer come out their mouth. But it seems to me, going back to this discussion we had in the beginning, that seemed to be the biggest group that we tie ourselves to when it comes down to stuff. And it seems like that's the group y'all have the biggest issue with. And I want the callers and everybody to understand that I'm not in no shape, form, or fashion trying to say that anything should be better than anything. We're having a conversation, and in this conversation, this is what we need to talk about. So in that, why is it you think you get so much flack? I'll start with Kennedy. Kennedy, what you think? You've been young at it, and you said it. Why you think you catching it, and what kind of flack you get?
And well, in my experience working in schools and working in corporate and working in an office and working in community organizing and campaigns, my biggest hassle has been white women. And surprisingly, outside of black women, my biggest ally has been white men, honestly. I don't know what it is with white women. I don't want to boil it down to just jealousy, but I don't know what's at the core of that. But white women they've taken the charge on blocking opportunities to move up in the totem pole, taking credit for stuff that you've done. That's happened to me firsthand. And yeah, white women. They're at the root of that. It's always been white women in my short stint of 25 years.
Dr. Burton?
Yeah. And so I go back, and Kennedy mentioned this earlier when we were talking about the DEI conversation and talking about feminism. And so one of the disconnects that happened early was with white women and black women and feminism, and how white women wanted black women to choose between race and gender. And so with that, this is why black women started movements of womanism, and black women feminists, because we don't have the luxury to choose gender over race. They are both marginalized identities for us. So we have to go with, and typically most black women, the thing is race is going to come at the forefront and gender is going to come as that. I use it in this term secondary, and not that it's any less than either one. And so we don't have that option. But what white women did historically was they left us out of the fight. Well, guess what? They still leave us out of the fight today. Is that when they come to the table, and this is how white women progress when we're talking about different spaces of diversity, equity, and inclusion, we're talking about hiring, is white women progress because they say this is for women. But when they say this is for women, they leave the black woman out of the equation. And with that, they also have this idea, specifically white liberal women, and I use this book all the time on them, by Robin DiAngelo on white fragility, where there is this idea that I know more than you. And because I am doing some work, and here's the work, I'm doing the work for the advancement of white women, then I'm saying I'm advancing everyone. But in all reality, you're leaving everyone out of the equation, specifically black women. But in your mind, you think, and I use this, you think you woke because you are doing a level of gender work as it relates to white women. And so many liberal white women come to the space thinking that they know more than black women, that they can tell your story, and that
they're the ones who are the be all to end all. And this is why we have such a hard time with them. And then when we question them, this is the other thing, and Robbie D'Angelo talks about this, is that they go into those white woman tears. And they start crying on you. And when I first started in diversity and inclusion, and this could be like a part 2 conversation.
Oh, it's going to definitely
so many
be
stories.
one.
But when I first started, there was a white woman on the phone, and literally, because this is during COVID,
right?
And she's talking, and I'm telling her that she needs to do this, that, the other, and all of a sudden, it's just too hard. It's just too hard, and I'm holding the phone back, like, is she really crying? Like, you really are crying on the phone, and it's that weaponization of the white woman's tears, and so all of that is used, and it's used towards us as Black women, and Kennedy said it best, that there are some, and I always find that the ones who are true allies. Let me not use true. I don't use true. That are allies. Okay. I can't use true with allies. I can't. It don't work together for me. But that our allies are the ones that you can have the real conversations with,
right? And
check them about the relationship between Black and white women, and then they're okay, and they continue to learn from it and grow.
Dr. Burton, everybody, is in the house. She will be coming back on our program because she got time now, y'all. Y'all gonna be hearing from her quite a bit now. Y'all started something. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to Strategic Moves with Kendall Kennedy. Good debut day. Good debut. Y'all hear more from Kennedy. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We'll be back next Tuesday on Strategic Moves with Kendall. Check us out on our podcast, Strategic Moves with Kendall, on YouTube. Every Thursday we drop a new tune. See you then.
And don't sleep. We always dropping gems. You don't want to miss a thing. Cause we expanded the movement and maximizing moments. The goal is always improving.